like why women love true crime so much. And I think people, and men especially, think that we're like, we love murder. And I'm like, it's not the murder, it's the planning. Like, I just love planning.
Yes, hello. Welcome back to the Pop-Up with Paul and Friends. Thanks for coming back. I'm having a little celebratory cigar right now. I did turn a year older this week. Thanks for all the birthday love. You know, I'm at the age now, I don't know how this happened. I'm at the age now where I was drying my head and I pulled my neck. Literally doing something like drying my head with a towel. Now I can't move my neck. That's the level of age I'm at. Wow. I feel like I could feel my ear hairs growing. Like it's just, I hit a switch. Now I'm like mid to post 30s, and here I am, injured from really nothing, I feel like. But I'm smoking a cigar. I'm celebrating the new year for me. And celebrating that we're here doing the show. We're back in action yet again with another great guest. And we're here every week. I want to thank you guys for subscribing, watching. If you're here now watching this, something got you here, whether it was me harassing you, whether it was a social media post, whatever it is, I appreciate you listening. I'm really inspired and grateful for the conversation I'm having out of the studio. So many awesome guests. We're here every week. And this week is no different. Chances are, if you go to the Comedy Store here in LA, or you go to a comedy club across America, you're going to see this comedian performing. She's a regular at the Comedy Store. She's a regular in the comedy scene. She's been doing comedy for a long time, and she's shared stages with the best of the best, and she continues to kill it in comedy. She has a new special out on YouTube called 44, which is hilarious. So you got to make sure you go on YouTube and check that out. Right from the Comedy Store stage. She's a legend of comedy. I'm so glad she's here. Put your hands together for Sarah Tiana. I'm so grateful you came down to hang out with us, Sarah. It's good to have you here. I immediately got you a drink, and you have a parent-teacher conference coming up. So thank you for drinking with me before you talk to your kid's teacher.
You're welcome. It's going to be the easiest way to talk to his
I think it's good. Is it funny being a comedian and a mom and kind of intersecting? There's a lot of materials about motherhood and what it's like to be a mom, and some of it is.
Yeah. A lot of it now.
Do you approach, like tonight, you're going to approach that kind of like, because this happens with me now as a comic, like I hope things go weird so I can write something down and then make fun of it publicly.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a comedian that could just write jokes about nothing. It has to be real experiences, because when I'm on stage, I have to be reliving those moments. That's what keeps me in it. It's what keeps me plugged in. It's what keeps me present. And if I feel like I'm just going through the motions, it's like, it's not a good set.
How long did it take you to be real with your material? Because I've been doing it a few years. I feel like I'm just starting to tell people like who I am and what is vulnerable to me, because it's scary to me.
Yeah, I think it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's honestly
terrifying to be yourself.
It's also an irrational decision to go do.
Yes. I mean, I also started very young. So, I mean, very young. I was like 25, which is actually kind of old. But like, I mean, I think it took me 10 years, honestly. It took me 10 years to get good in it's kind of like Jerry Seinfeld always says, like, it takes just as long to become a comedian as it does to become a doctor. It takes 10 years to become a doctor. And even when you become a doctor, you're not a good doctor. And you haven't established credibility or a business or a clientele. And so it's like, it takes 10 years to get good.
Yeah.
And then once you're good, you can start gathering clientele and a reputation and all that kind of good stuff.
If only 10 years into comedy paid the same as your first year as a doctor, that'd be cool. Maybe that could happen one day.
Yes, but it doesn't cost as much to become a comedian as it does to become a doctor.
Yeah. You've been a paid regular at the Comedy Store since 2009, right?
2009.
How did that happen?
Oh, that took a very long time. It took me 6.5 years to become a paid regular there. At the time, women weren't allowed to work the door because women also had to be the bouncers and you know, like the door guys had to be bouncers and stuff like that. So now it's very different there. It was probably just the manager that we had at the time who told me that was the rule, because apparently that wasn't actually the rule. But so most of the time the door guys had their own show, and like that's how they went up. And since I couldn't go up on the door guys show, I had to find other ways to go up. So I started running rooms there and in the belly room, many different terrible shows in the belly room, mostly bringer shows. And then I would do the open mic But then I ended up doing Friends of the Store, which was also on, at the time, I think it was on Sunday nights or Monday nights. It was like not the open mic, but like the last hour of the open mic once people started showing up. So it was kind of nice.
Wasn't the Belly Room, wasn't it carved out as a space for female comics when it started?
It started that way, yes.
That's cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's right.
Which, you know, I always thought it was funny because when the Mafia owned it and it was Ciro's, that's where they used to do illegal abortions. Oh. So I was like, oh, this is a great place for women to start comedy.
They're like, put it up there. It has history. I love talking about this place because I like I was saying before, I romanticize kind of the stage as a comedian. You've been there for such a long time. You're a seasoned pro. You just released your special from the main stage. What's it like looking back? A girl from Georgia, 20 years in LA. You have a comedy special. You're a regular. You're doing big things in comedy. Did you think about it that way?
I guess I don't really think about it that way. It's funny because John Sosis, who is the director producer of my special, who's like the guru of the comedy stories, one of my favorite people there. He kind of made my whole special happen, and he found this footage of me when I was very young at the Comedy Store, and he put it at the end of the special, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, like that was when I was probably doing I don't know if it was early on when I was a paid regular or if I was like a bringer show or something that I was doing in the main room, and so I mean, I don't even know if I thought I would be doing comedy forever. I guess you don't really look at comedy in terms of levels. You just go, I hope I continue to evolve and get funnier. And I think that happens, with different life stages. Like I think early on my comedy was very much about dating and being single, and then it evolves into being lonely and being unhappy and being a prude and really settling into who you are. I think early on I tried to do what all women did and kind of be slutty. And then once I was honest about the fact that I was not that way, I got much funnier.
Right.
Because I was telling the truth, and the audience can tell when you're lying.
Yeah.
They can tell. They can sniff it out very well.
You're telling me all the right things because truth is the best thing for your material.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm like a little gun shy to reveal it all. Because it's like but you're public and I want to be funny, but let me also be this cool guy. It does take, like you said, probably 10 years to get that groove out.
Well, I think therapy. It takes you 10 years to realize that, your material is not funny, you're funny. Like you can make anything funny. And so then to get that confidence to just talk about anything and know that it probably won't work, but you'll figure it out is, where you can really relax on stage. And I think that's when I say that's when you, truly get funny. I would say it's not really being funny because you can be funny right away. A lot of people can be funny right away. But I think just being comfortable and consistent, it takes maybe that long.
Comfortable and consistent. That's good. My theme for this year is consistency. I feel like that's a big part of what we all do.
Yeah.
Keep doing your thing.
Yeah.
I feel like you've been doing it for a long time as well. Yeah. And I want to mention also off the bat, so people know you have the new special. I just was watching the Super Bowl and I saw your face. I feel like you pop up a lot in what you're up to. You were in a Planters commercial, right?
I was. We roasted Mr. Peanut. Get it?
Yeah, they're not paying you now for the plug here, but that was really cool to see you on there.
Yeah, that was really fun to do. I mean,
it was awesome.
That was kind of crazy that it all came about within 2 weeks, and we all got paid as performers and writers because we all wrote our own stuff, and it was great.
One thing that sticks out to me about you and your comedy, which I love, is. And I'm very inquisitive about stand-up. So I appreciate you talking to me. I'm so curious about it, being young at it. You maintain an authenticity of who you are, where you come from, that people are attracted to. I love all your Southern stuff. I feel like you're very Southern still, though you've been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so much of your material is based on where you come from and how you look at the world. And how much of that, like sometimes we fight where we're from when we leave. And I feel like you are Miss Georgia in my mind. I'm like, it's her.
I don't think I was always that way though, because I definitely fought it when I came out here. I tried to not have an accent. You can see a lot of my stuff early on where you could see that I definitely did not have the one.
Wait,
and then
do you do no accent right now? What would it be like if you had no Southern accent?
If I just didn't have an accent?
Yeah, can you do that?
I think so.
Let's say something real quick to me, non-Georgian.
Non-Georgian?
Say hey, what's up? and without a southern
Hey, what's
accent.
up? Do you want to go to the Comedy Store or no?
Where are you from?
Nebraska. I mean, I think like I never really had a thick accent anyway because my parents weren't from Georgia.
Got it.
So my friends at school talk different than my parents at home. So I feel like I kind of talk two different ways all the time. So it was very easy for me to slip into either one of those personalities. So when people say, oh, you don't have an accent, like people still tell me all the time that I don't have one. And I'll be like, well, that's because you don't, I tend to mimic whoever I'm talking to because that's how I survived growing up.
Interesting.
Because when I moved to Georgia from Northern California, my dad was from Michigan, my mom was from Northern California, but they met in San Francisco. And, I got called all kinds of names.
Yeah.
A Yankee mostly. And I would be like,
What?
California wasn't even in the war. And why am I calling it the war? But like, so I think you learn to adapt and survive. And so when I moved out here, I definitely tried to distance myself from that. And then the further along you get, you just go, well, I can't pretend to be something that I'm not.
Yeah.
And then you realize that that's the only thing in comedy that makes you unique, or your experiences in your life, and being honest about everything with kind of that lens. And so I approach everything with just like who I am. Like I can't like pretend to be. I'm just not a good liar, so I can't lie about anything.
I relate to that. I can't be fake
Yeah.
with anything I do, but also on stage in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
But being real doesn't necessarily mean it's funny. So it's like it's interesting watching your special and also your material is like you're authentic and funny. And I think like you're saying, it takes so much time to like figure out how to lift all that from your life and make it laugh out loud.
Yeah, I think, I think as a comedian, you notice things that most people don't notice. That's your job, like somebody will be walking down the street with, mohawks and tattoos and chains in their face, and I'll notice that he's wearing Skechers. Like that's my job, it's just to notice the non-obvious things.
Yeah.
And you kind of, you start, that's the muscle that you're really working. The muscle is just a keen eye to really discuss things, and then to describe it to people on stage in a way that is funny and entertaining, but also makes sense. And then you learn to really pace yourself and take your time and not rush anything, and then to not be afraid of making people upset, which I think is like kind of the new thing that you have to worry about, is like not hurting people's feelings and not being shy or afraid to say something that might be a little taboo that could get you in trouble.
I love that.
So I think you have, like even this is just an example that seems like a nothing example, but I used to have this bit about how I'm always tired now that I'm in my 40s. Like I don't like to do the things I used to enjoy doing. Like I don't like to leave my house. And I would say, I don't want to be here, honestly. And if in my mind I thought, I hope they don't think I don't want to be here, that would never work.
Right.
But if I committed to it and I was honest, because it was always true.
Right.
And I would just say, like, I don't want to be here.
Right.
It would kill.
Right.
Because it's like, they can tell. Like,
You're being real.
Energy is, comedians and comedy audiences, it's a very sensitive environment.
Yes.
And that energy is very, like, the longer you do stand-up, the quicker you are at reading all of that.
Yeah.
And you become very hyper-aware. Like, and you can notice things. Like, I can get on stage and I can be like, oh, that couple's on a date. They're married. They're from another country. They're brother and sister. They're here on a work trip. And I don't have to say anything about that. But if I need to, if something happens or goes awry, I can bring it up if I need to.
It's like you get grooves where you have things in your back pocket. The social anthropology of it is so wild. I want to touch on what you mentioned about like not caring, because I traditionally feel like a people pleaser in my relationships. And since doing stand up, I'm more of a jerk. Like I don't care as much. I think when you're on stage for a while, you start to care less about how people react to like you just being aggressive and honest. Like my family like accuses me of being more aggressive, and I feel like when I'm through the comedy lens, you are more aggressive in a way, because you're like, I got to get the laugh. So like if I'm going to make a joke that like might seem mean-spirited, my heart's not mean-spirited, but you could take this as a mean thing. It's hard to like differentiate for me life and stage, and I think it's interesting you touch on that, because you can't please everyone in comedy. And if you're not honest and real, even if it might rub a little, it's going to be funny.
Yeah.
But does that blend a little? Like, do you think that way about everything? Because I feel like I do. Like, maybe I need to separate it a little bit. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't really, I guess I don't really feel that I'm different at home than I am on stage. I mean, I'm always just
You're just doing
myself.
Your thing. Yeah. You're just doing your thing.
I don't feel, but I think that I think comedy does embolden you to be more of yourself. So it could be that you're just
That's what I'm
becoming
saying.
more of yourself.
Yeah, it's a liberation.
And your family doesn't like who
That's
you really are.
100% what it is. That's really what it is.
Yeah, they're just seeing a side of you that they haven't seen because maybe you've been hiding that from them.
That's what it is. I've been people pleasing, and now I'm like, F this. I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
Sort of. Speak my mind, and people pity laugh.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah.
And I think, when I was in the dating world, it was always very daunting. It was very difficult to date, especially when guys found out that you were a comic because it was just like instant intimate. It was like, oh, that's cool. And then immediately like, huh. Yeah. Like, I mean, I think also men tend to like to be taller, stronger. They like to make more money. They like to be the funny one.
Right.
And I took at least one of those away.
Sure.
Sometimes 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me, or I felt like men would try to be funny or make me laugh. And then if they didn't, then they were very insecure about that. And it's just like, I mean, I'm not, I think people also think that comedians are just off stage or just these like clowns, and I'm like, no, we don't do any of that. Like,
right.
I compare us to animals at the zoo, right? Like if you go to see a lion at the zoo, is the lion running around chasing gazelle? No, because they're just sitting around waiting to eat something that gets brought to them and watching the world go by. And then at night they come alive and they're like awake. And then, but that's not when you're allowed to go see them.
Right.
And so our natural habitat is at night when people are around and we're alive. And during the day, I'm just an observer. I'm just watching and listening.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm just zoning out because, you might work in an office from 8 to 4, but my office is in my head. And so I can't turn that off. So I need a lot of time to rest my brain.
Socially, you must hate. I'm sure you've had dates like this back in the day where it's like, oh, you're a comedian. Like,
Tell me something funny.
Tell me something funny.
And I'd say, no, you can't afford it. I don't tell jokes for free.
Nice. That's a great line.
And then they'd say, then they would at least give me $1. Now you're invested.
Right.
If you're invested, maybe you'll listen better.
Yeah.
And I would do that when I waited tables forever. That's what I would always do that.
That's so funny. Yeah. Did you wait tables when you first came to LA?
Yeah, I did extra work when I first came to LA. Because I moved out here to be an actor. I did not move out here to be a comedian.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I started stand-up in L.A., which, Dave Chappelle always told me that, like, starting stand-up in L.A. is like learning to dribble in the NBA. Like, it's a very good place to start because you're learning from the best and you pick up less bad habits.
That's a great thing to hear, actually. That's very true.
Yeah. You're not like, I think obviously like being the funniest person in your respective city that's not New York or LA like is great, but you could get very lazy or you could develop bad habits or watch too many road guys that aren't necessarily seasoned road people or new road and like you never know,
Sure.
So it's good to be out here and in the mix, and you can be poor anywhere. Why not be poor here? You're
saying all the right things to me at this moment. I am curious about the rubbing elbows nature of the Comedy Store also because I've done like 2 shows in the Belly Room. I'm about to do the main stage for the first time ever, but every time I'm there, like you get off stage and you're a regular, so you know this feeling and you're probably a little jaded, I think, at this point about what this is to me. You get off stage, someone who just sold out an arena is right next to you. They just got off stage testing something out or whatever. Chappelle just did something. How, as a student of comedy, since you've been going there, what's that experience like? And do you still get a lot out of like that kind of regular gig there? Like you're always performing in like the best venue for comedy in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I'm trying to think of like when I started, who like the really famous people were that we wouldn't really, but there was really nobody that like
2009
was like so, because the Comedy Store wasn't really busy back then. It was like really kind of in a dark hour when I first started there. Like if there were 60 people in the main room, we'd be like, oh my God, we're getting paid, like, and the main room was only one night a week.
Oh my gosh.
It was dark all the other times.
Oh my gosh, wow.
And then the original room, would have a decent crowd, but was rarely sold out. And so, it was really just like a bunch of us that were, like Rogan would come in and he had 3 spots a night in the OR. So he would do 45 minutes. So he was really the only one that was like famous. But like a lot of my close friends like went on to become super famous. So it was really just like when I see them now, it doesn't feel any different. It still feels like we're back in that hallway.
You came up at a time with everybody. Like you came up together.
Yeah, we all. It's like it's called your class, and like I was in the same class as Segura and Christina, and like I was the 3rd guest on their podcast.
Wow.
So like I've just like known everybody for so long, and before the store, we were all doing. All kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, I think probably the most famous person was Dane Cook at the time.
Right. Oh, that makes sense.
And that's when Dublin's was happening. And so, going and doing Dublin's was way better than doing the Comedy Store. And I remember seeing David Alan Grier and Jamie Foxx and Roseanne Barr like come through there. And then that was like, oh my gosh, like these are people with TV shows.
Yeah, yeah. The model's changed in a way, though, for stand-ups, too, though, from that time. Like, TV shows, sitcoms, versus now, you just release your own special, and, it's on YouTube. That is a different time where you create your material and you put it out for the world. Are you excited by the way the business has changed in a way?
In a way, I like that it's easier to put out content. I don't really like that specials get put out so often. I don't really like them, they don't feel special. It was called a special because it was special.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm much more on a 3 to 4 year trajectory of a new hour. Like I'm not a person that can create a new hour every year. And I feel like people now expect you to create a new hour every year. And that's just not how I operate. Like I can't do enough living in a year to create and really work out that time and make it good.
Yeah.
Like it takes me now, a lot of guys do operate that way, and they do have enough experience because they are touring and traveling and seeing the world with these materials. So they are writing new stuff for while they're performing their old hour, they're writing their new hour, and they're able to have people help, type it up or write it down or however they operate. I don't know for sure how they do any of that, but like I just don't operate that way.
Yeah.
I'm much slower. Like it takes me a long time to work and hone a bit. It takes me at least 6 months to really perfect something where I'm like, that's good. And, and now I'll be working on 20 different ones, but it takes a long time to really get them to the right place.
Yeah. How did you decide to record the special?
Honestly, like the Comedy Store said they wanted to start doing them.
Oh, cool.
And I was the first one that they asked.
That's great.
Really.
Nice.
And so, I've been there a really long time. I'm kind of the baby sister of the Comedy Store. I'm always a big proponent of sticking up for them. I think they get a lot of shit for not having enough female comics, or they used to. And, I think, you still have to be funny enough to get past at the Comedy Store. There are, 10% of comedians are female, maybe 15% now. And honestly, when you are in that 15%, you are kind of a hot commodity. You are very busy. Like, it's not that the Comedy Store's not booking me. It's that I'm not available every night.
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
Other people want to pay me to go to other places and
Yeah.
perform. And so, or I'm writing on a show, or I'm out of town doing something, or I'm shooting all day and I can't shoot all day and like not see my kid at some point.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go straight from the set to the Comedy Store. So like, I think I've always, been a big advocate of that club, and I do think it is the greatest club in the country. I think it's the greatest because it is exclusive and it is very difficult, and they don't just take anybody. It took a really long time for me to get up there, and even when I thought I was ready and I was angry at them, by the time I was ready, I still don't think I was ready to really understand it. But I really I figured it out pretty quick.
That's great.
So I think their model is correct. And so anyway, I had all this material. I hadn't done a special since 2017. And so I just kind of had the material to burn. And I had forgotten tons of it. I had to
oh, really?
go back and I hadn't. Now I'm really good about recording my stuff on my phone because
Nice.
I never really was, because I didn't really have anything to prepare for.
Right.
And so I forgot a lot of material over the pandemic.
Damn. And
Yeah.
so you record yourself and that's how you curate everything to prepare
Now
the
I'm
special?
starting to do that. I never did. I really hate listening to
So do
myself.
I. Why do we
I had the same voicemail for 15 years because I never
Yeah, I'm the same.
I never wanted to rehear it.
I'm the same way. It's funny how comedians, we want the public to laugh at us and our voice, and then we don't want to ever listen to us back.
Right.
Like, we don't want to hear it once it's done.
Yeah.
I'm the same way with shows.
But I'll go back and listen, and I'm like, oh, no wonder they didn't laugh. I said that completely wrong.
Right,
I said
right.
I said it backwards.
It's a very self-critical job that
Yeah.
really never ends, which I maybe need a therapist, because it's like we are that way about the job. You're constantly thinking
That's
about
also another reason to put out a special, because I would just keep nitpicking at stuff and with this one, I actually didn't have enough time. I wish we had recorded it a little. I wish I had done 2 takes. We only did 1.
Oh, nice.
That's
it was
all
great.
we had.
It's great. It's so
but
funny.
I still said something wrong twice in it, and I'm like, oh, like I hope, I said the wrong type of gun. Like I was like, oh,
But you know
like,
what? It's the nature of what you do and we
It
do.
is.
No, I just watched
Yeah.
it. I would have never noticed there was a single mistake. It's funny throughout.
Thank you.
But it's weird how it's like this self-critical thing.
Yeah.
It's like I equate it to like musicians. Like you write a song, or you're editing a song, or you're mastering an album. You have to hit a point where you go, this is baked, this is done,
Yeah.
I'm going to put it out. But it's hard for creatives to get there. It's hard to be like, we're done, we're going to put it out.
It's like the who's the guy that wrote Hallelujah?
The guitar player who's dead. Yeah. Oh my God, Jeff
took him
Beck. No,
yeah.
not Jeff Beck. He's also dead though.
Beckley
Sorry.
or,
Buckley. Jeff Buckley.
It took him like 10 years, right?
To release that? To write it.
To write it.
Oh my God.
Right?
Wow.
And then Malcolm Gladwell did a podcast on it about that, and then like this Bob Dylan song that he wrote in a day, and it's like they're both arguably incredibly good, and which one is what's the better model, basically, and I honestly think that like overthinking your act is a huge curse, just as bad as underthinking it, know?
Yes.
And so like at some point you just have to put it out there and be like, here you go.
Try it out. Yeah.
Let's see. It's just like trying out a new bit. You're like, well, I mean, I hope you like it. I know everyone won't. It's not going to be unanimous.
But
it's probably going to be like an election. It's going to be 50-50.
Yeah.
If it's 60-40, I'm going to be thrilled.
Great. Yeah.
And so like, obviously like nobody, constantly all day on my Instagram, it's like, ugh, again, women aren't funny. Women aren't funny. If I
Really?
put out one material that's like, one clip that's like 10 years old and I'm talking about sex, like all the comments are like, this is all girls talk about. All women talk about is being whores.
Wow.
And it's like, I mean, definitely I agree with that concept that is a problem, but also women have sex more than men because men want to have sex with us.
That's true.
I'm sorry, but like you can only talk about the things that are true to you.
Right.
And, but I also understand that like it must be frustrating as an audience member if that's what you feel like all you're seeing, But I also think people just like to be critical, and be offended.
It's the world we're in. I mean,
Yeah.
you're doing a little bit of a dangerous game if you're reading every comment.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
especially for people who put themselves out there and do comedy, in this climate of the world, I think it's like, I like that Instagram's now like, you can limit stuff. I think like all comedians should just be like, oh, maybe there's a comment, maybe there's not. You can't see anything. I don't know. Disappear. By the way, I do want to make a point to you. I want to ruffle feathers, but I want to go back to Jeff Buckley is the one that's better because Bob Dylan is not a singer. But
True.
I just wanted to, I had a mental note there.
Oh no, I completely agree.
I'm trying to see, we're talking about people getting offended. I need to offend people on the show. And if you think Bob Dylan's a good singer, you're wrong.
Yeah, you're absolutely wrong.
It's not right. Great
I actually,
songwriter.
at Music Midtown in Atlanta one year, I went to, Bob Dylan was headlining, but opening for him, before him was this guy, Edwin McCain. And I loved Edwin McCain.
Wait,
he had that song, I'll be better. Yeah, whatever. I went and watched
awesome.
Edwin McCain and left. I did not stay for Bob Dylan. I had zero interest. Yes, great. I'm glad you're a rambling man, but you're just rambling on to me.
Yeah.
So
the dude needed a barber in the 60s. Like, you look cool, but there's a lot of people cutting hair in the Village,
Yeah, not my cup of tea, but I also
Great songwriter.
I mean, maybe I wouldn't know. I don't even listen to any of it. I mean, I listen to country music from the 80s and 90s and sports talk radio. That's all I listen to. And true crime podcasts.
I love
obsessed.
true crime. It's funny because I like doing this and I like comedians. And I made a switch. I had to make a switch in my life from true crime to comedy because I was literally in murders for like a year straight. I had a job in San Diego for a year. So I would drive every couple days. And I'm like, what happened? There's 3 bodies in a barrel. Tell me more.
Yeah.
You love that?
See, I love it. I have a whole bit, a new bit about this, about like why women love true crime so much. And I think people, and men especially, think that we love murder. And I'm like, it's not the murder, it's the planning. Like, I just love planning. When like anytime a guy's like, you're not spontaneous, I'm like, right. So I'm not going to murder you tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. But if you make me mad tomorrow, 10 years from now, you better watch your back.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's why men commit mass murder because they're angry today.
It's in the moment. Yeah. Women are calculated.
Women are very calculated. So I might take out a life insurance policy on you tomorrow, but it won't pay off for 10 years.
If you piss you off, it'll eventually drop. It's just going to take some time.
Yeah. But it's, I think we're also just natural detectives, so I like to try to figure it out. And honestly, I like those podcasts I'm more like Dateline because I like watching men be bad at planning. That makes me feel really safe.
Yeah, if a man's going to try and get you, you're going to outplan him.
I think that every cold case in America probably done by a woman. That's just how good we are at it. Yeah. Unless it was in like the 90s and the 80s when all you needed was like gloves to get away with murder. Like they didn't have any.
Have you planned your boyfriend's murder?
No.
Oh, good.
No, but I am right. I am pitching a movie right now, which we, are very close on. But it's basically that. It's a group of party planners that
plan a murder. That's great. I love it. It's comedy. It's a mix of
it's a dark
true crime
comedy,
and dark comedy. It's my favorite type of genre.
Yeah,
it's the best.
Yeah,
it is wild how we're fascinated by that subject, and it's such a bad thing. And we love it. Like,
but I think it's like, to me, it's very fulfilling to like try to figure it out. You're trying to solve a problem. I think it's also, but it's made me hyper aware of my surroundings constantly. I'm much more skeptical of people. I think it's made me safer as a mother and a human being because I'm like, nope, I don't like the looks of you. Nope, I don't like where my car's parked. Nope, there's not a light here. Like, I feel like I'm just very on high alert.
Survival.
All the time. But I'm also, I just like figuring things out and it doesn't make me feel unsafe because I feel like most murders that happen are people that you know.
Yeah. But don't you go through a filter in your head, though? If you get so into true crime, you go like, who do I know who would murder me?
Oh yeah. No, I've already told my boyfriend if I ever get murdered, like here's the suspects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine 100% is my wife. There's no even doubt in my mind. It's her.
So she's probably planned it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
shit. You're right. I didn't even think of that. Knowing her brain, it's like, what's that movie? The Ben Affleck movie. That's like my nightmare.
Gone Girl.
Gone Girl is like my real nightmare that could happen.
Yeah, Gone Girl's kind of ahead of its time, but it is like, instead of framing men with sexual allegations, you could just frame them with your own murder, which is kind of a great, like, maniacal way of getting rid of somebody.
It's legit. Yeah. It's good. I love true crime. And I also, the algorithms on my Facebook specifically, and I'm dating us, like, talking about Facebook, I feel like no one uses it anymore.
Oh, no, I don't. I definitely know I post there because, like, my
Sure.
Instagram is linked to there,
Yeah.
but I don't, unless somebody sends me a message, I don't really see anything.
I only go there for the news, and my news algorithm is literally all like family murder. It's so bad.
Oh, no.
But I love it. It's
See,
like
I go there for the marketplace.
yeah, it's good too. Actually, that couch might be from Marketplace.
Oh,
You're
there
on
you go.
Facebook,
See?
thank you. For murder and couches. We appreciate everything you're doing for us. Walk me through upbringing for you, because I am curious. I'm from up north in New Jersey, and growing up in the South is like a special breed of upbringing where you values and lifestyle. And I said like your material is reflected that way as well. But I feel like you go back a lot. Like what's it like being a Georgia girl here?
Oh, I think it's very easy to be a Georgia girl here. I mean, I never really fit in there. And because I was born in Northern California, coming back to California seemed very easy. I was always kind of different and outgoing. I was always the first one cast in a play and stuff like that. Looking back, I was very sarcastic growing up. So I had all of these comedy moments in my life, not realizing I was a comedian because, when you're funny or you're in a lot of, like, people would be like, Sarah, you're such a good actress. You'd make a great dental hygienist. So, like, just the idea of leaving our town of Calhoun, Georgia was just, like, not on their radar.
Right.
Now I think it's a little bit different. I think more and more people, comedy has gotten out. You can see it on your phone now. When I was growing up, I never watched any comedy. In fact, when I started stand-up, when people told me I should do stand-up was when I moved to Los Angeles. Now, I had seen it live twice. Because in college, I hosted a radio talk.
Nice.
I was on like college radio station in Atlanta, and we would interview the comics that came through the Punchline in Atlanta. And Mitch Hedberg was the first person that ever gave me tickets to a show.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so people were like, oh, is that what made you do comedy? I said, I mean, you don't see Mitch Hedberg and go, oh, I can do that. Like,
Yeah.
I was just like, that's amazing. And I just forgot about it. And then I moved to LA to be an actor. I had studied abroad in Paris, and I was like coming out to LA to do theater and like TV. And then I was DJing weddings and bar mitzvahs because, of course, I had experience as a radio DJ, so I must know how to DJ parties. And a friend of mine who was a slam poet named Poetry, who was on Russell Simmons' Def Poetry Jam,
Nice.
was like, you have got to do stand-up. You're so funny. And I was like, what? Like, no one's ever told me I was funny. In fact, they told me the opposite. But going back, I looked, it's like I was so sarcastic growing up. I was always making fun of people. And they would be laughing, but they'd be like, that's not funny. That's not funny. And
Right.
so I just heard that's not funny, not thinking I was funny.
Right.
So, and then I still I was like, I can't do stand up. I don't have a sitcom. Like, I thought you had to have a sitcom and then you did.
Right.
Not knowing that Roseanne and Ellen and Paula Poundstone, like all these women that I loved, their TV shows did stand up, and that's how they got their TV show.
Right.
I
Yeah.
thought it was the opposite. So I was completely mixed up, and I was watching TV. I was, doing extra work in LA, and all these people had told me to do stand-up. And so I was watching the news, and I wrote a joke about this story that I saw on the news, which was this guy that, like, shot himself in the head with a nail gun, and it, like, went up into his eye socket and went up into his brain, and he worked the whole day and didn't notice. And and I was like, well, I wouldn't be able to feel 3.5 inches if I got nailed. So what's the big deal? Like, that was my very first joke. And like, it worked.
Yeah.
So then I had one, and then you write two, and then like the second one doesn't work, and the third one doesn't work, and the fourth one doesn't work, but you still have one.
Yeah.
And so, you can end with something.
Right.
And so, the more you tell that one that works, the better that one gets. And then you just kind of add on. And then I was waiting tables at the Four Seasons, and that's when I really cut my chops, because that's when I learned to be a joke writer, because I was opening the restaurant. I worked at the pool, and I had to be there at 7 a.m., so I would get there at 6:30 and set up early, because we opened at 8. And then I would open the USA Today. This is before Twitter, obviously. And on the second page of USA Today, there was a state-by-state blurb of one news story. And I would try to write a joke about as many of those news stories as I could before I got a customer. And once you get good at writing jokes, then you can put two jokes together with a theme, and then that's a bit. And then those bits together become stories. And like, once you get good at writing jokes, you can do anything.
I love topical news. Like, do you still write that way with the news of the world today? Like, I know your social media is funny and you have topical things, but
no, I don't really. I used to do that. I used to use Twitter for that.
Yeah.
Now I really focus on sports or country music, because that's really all I know: sports, country music, and the military. Like, I think when it's so funny, like, you come out here and you're like, I'm not going to pigeonhole myself as like this Southern comedian, I'm different. And now, because the business is so broad, you have to pigeonhole yourself. You have to say, like, this is what I know.
Yeah.
And so I go into meetings and I go, I know sports, country music, and the military. If you need that, I'm your girl. If you don't, bye.
Right.
I can help you, but I can't do anything else. And so that way I'm the first call when anybody needs any of that.
Sure.
And so now I've kind of worked myself into a position where when they need a female that knows sports, I'm usually the first call.
That's great. Well, I feel like you're working a lot in the sports world,
Very
too.
much,
You said you did CBS Sports, and you also have the show with Taran Killam.
Yeah.
I always say his name wrong.
Taran Killam.
Yeah. Taran. I said it wrong again.
Taran
It's
Killam.
the bourbon. Taran Killam.
Yes. So,
and how's all that going? It must be rewarding for your passion to, cross with comedy in a way.
It's
now.
Wonderful. And, my boyfriend and I have been together for 7 years, and he's a sportscaster on the Rich Eisen show. He's the sidekick on that show. And he is like this encyclopedia of knowledge. So it's so great to be able to sit. I like run all my jokes by him, or whenever I need help, I'll be like, I just need a reference. I'll be like, who's really bad at 3-pointers? And he'll be like, oh, Russell Westbrook. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So then, like, like a lot of times for a joke, like, all jokes are the same, but you just need a point of reference. And so, that's what I'm very good at.
It's funny to hear you too, because I'm not very passionate about sports, but I follow my teams and I like it. Like, I'm more peripheral. Like, I like watching, but I'm not diehard. But I'm curious about your attraction level with your boyfriend, where it's like, was your first date like, oh yeah, the stats in '99 were it's so hot. Like, wow. Like, were you like sports lingo? Because I feel like two sports fans.
Oh, for sure.
You have to be attracted to that in a way.
Yeah, sure. There was a lot of shit talking, because he's all New England.
Right.
And I'm all Georgia. And so we had a very love-hate relationship when it came to sports. But it was more just like, he was the first person that I had dated that I really looked up to, that I was really proud of, where I was just like, oh my God, like, I was in awe of him and his knowledge, and he knew so much more than me. And I just hadn't had that before, where I felt like so many men that I dated were very insecure about my ability to be funny, and he didn't care about any of that, because he had his own thing.
Yeah.
And that was just very rewarding.
That's
and like,
awesome.
He didn't care that I made good money, and it didn't matter. None of that mattered. Like, we just both really respected each other and looked up to each other, and then that was really it.
That's a dream. And you guys speak a similar lingo.
Yeah, so
with
now
the
it's
sports
like
language.
It's great, because I never had to miss a game. And we always, like, all of our, our first date was at Dave & Buster's, because there were games on there, and we could play games and drink, and like,
That's
he
awesome.
didn't drink at the time. He does now, thank God. And so, yeah.
Oh, good. You turned him non-sober.
Yes,
That's great.
Yes. No, he wasn't sober. He just had
good.
never done, like, he had only had one drink ever in solidarity with a friend that had, like, called off his wedding.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
You were like, we're going to do this thing.
He didn't even drink coffee. Like, he only drank water.
No stimulants.
It was very bizarre.
No anything. Wow.
I'm like, what about tea? No. What about soda? No.
No. Well, that's to each his own, I guess. But I'm glad that you.
I'm like, I'm not gonna date a camel, like So like, eventually, I turned him in. He was already a gambler, which I am like a very degenerate gambler.
You are.
Yeah.
So that goes with sports. That goes hand in hand with sports, right?
Yeah, but I don't really bet on sports that much. I will a little bit. He bets on sports a lot. I'm much more of a slot machine person.
Old school. Cigarettes at the slot machine and like outside Vegas.
Yeah, when I can just sit and have a drink
chill.
and just like zone out. Oh, listen to something, a podcast, and just sit there. Yeah.
See, the passion of sports to me, you get into the nitty gritty where I understand like how serious it can get when you're betting. Like some of my friends bet, and it's like it's another level of sports fandom because you are watching to win yourself. You also want your teams to win.
You're very invested.
You're a fan. You're invested financially.
Yeah.
That's
See, I don't bet on my own teams, so that's a big no for me because I'm already invested, and I don't want to have an out. Like I'll be like, oh, we lost, but I won $100. Like there's no. I'm not going to be happy in any situation.
Yeah. Did you get into sports growing up where you grew up? Was it just because it's part of the culture, or did you always have a liking for sports? Did you play growing up?
It wasn't. I mean, I guess obviously college football was part of the culture. That's like the culture of the South is football.
Football and Jesus.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Am I just saying cliches? I feel like that's true.
But my parents were not religious, which I have a whole new bit on.
Really?
Yes, about...
It's because they came from here.
It's because they came from here, but they also were raised in two different denominations, so they did not want to tell me what they were.
Oh.
And so they never told my sister and I anything about religion.
Did
they
you have
wanted
Christmas?
us to decide.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom was raised Catholic and my dad was raised Presbyterian, but like they weren't devout. And my grandmother had left the Catholic Church at the time. So, it was a lot. But
that would have stuck out though in the South, I feel like, if they were that way. That would be the rarity.
Right? We were very different in that regard.
Yeah.
And that was definitely like, and I didn't really realize how different we are until we got a Cracker Barrel. And I said something about how and everybody was talking about how busy it was. And I was like, what do you mean? Like we go there on like Sunday mornings at 10 and there's no one in there.
And they're like, Sunday morning?
What do you mean? It's even open? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yes.
The Church of Cracker Barrel, what?
But I should have known, because I definitely remember now, like when we moved to Calhoun, that nothing was open on Sunday.
Right.
And everything closed at 3 on Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, at the time, we were so young that it's not like we were going out. Mm-hmm. But that was something that I remember my mom being like, oh, I can't go to the drugstore after work because it's closed. Yeah.
Well, I love that you had the sports. I mean, in a way, sports is a religion.
Yes, for sure. I mean, and it became, more and more important to me. I mean, we watched Braves games when I was growing up. I was born an Oakland A's fan because my grandmother worked for the Oakland A's and loved the Oakland A's, like worshipped the Oakland A's. And all my family in Northern California loved the Oakland A's. So I grew up loving the Oakland A's and the 49ers. And then we moved to Georgia and we became Braves fans and Falcons fans.
Nice.
Once Joe Montana retired, we became Falcons fans.
Really?
Yes. Joey, as my mother would call him. Yes, my mom was in love with Joe Montana. And so we had TBS growing up, and so we would watch baseball games around the TV while we ate dinner on TV trays. And then when I went to college, I ended up working for the Braves in 99 and 2000.
Cool.
And that really kind of sealed it. And then when I moved to LA, I could still watch them on TV. And I think the longer I've been in the entertainment industry, the more I've grown to love sports.
That's cool, yeah.
And I talk about that now in this the new hour that I'm writing, just about how I just need something in my life that's fair. You can't score a touchdown because your dad's a cinematographer. So that just really helps me balance this business with something that's fair based on merit and effort.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
so true.
The entertainment
actually.
industry is not like that.
Yeah, nepotism doesn't work
Yes,
in sports. Like
definitely does
we'll
not.
know with LeBron's son. Like eventually, it's like
Yes.
you either bring. Doesn't matter that
Yeah.
he's your dad. If you're not good, you're
No.
not gonna make it, dude. Which
Yeah,
is-
sorry. Like Michael Jordan's kids are not in the NBA.
No, and that's a cross to bear for them. That's
Yeah.
got to be really hard.
I mean, there's definitely a huge, like this year in baseball, there was like, it felt like tons of nepotism. Like you have Tatis Jr., you have all these like, Guerrero Jr., all these juniors in Major League Baseball. And I think you obviously, when you have a parent who was, a major league player. I mean, even Patrick Mahomes'
Gives you
dad,
a push. Oh, I didn't know that.
was a major league baseball player.
Oh, wow,
so,
that's right. Okay.
You have better coaches and better schools that you can send your kids to, but talent rises above. Like, it doesn't matter schools and coaches. You still have to be.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm at with the Nepo baby thing going on right now, because I do think you do have to still bring this stuff.
Yeah.
But if you have people who have parents, they just get closer to the people that can give them, like the gatekeepers and people to give them success. You're closer to it with parents who are connected, right? But you still have to have the goods.
You still have to have the goods. Like, I mean, Arch Manning, we will see. Like, he is like the number one recruit in the country for college football. He's Cooper Manning's son. He's the, Cupper. That's Peyton and Eli's oldest brother, who did not get to. That's the reason, Peyton always wore 14? 18.
Did he never play?
I'm like,
the brother. The
14,
older brother
I'm
never
afraid.
played, right? Did he play in the NFL?
He played in high school. He got injured in high school, and that's when they found out that he had a heart problem that would have killed him if he had kept playing.
Oh my gosh!
So they
I was about to
got
make a
lucky.
joke about how he wasn't the other two, and now I feel
no,
terrible.
but he's like,
he's still really athletic.
But that's why Peyton wore number 18, and but he is the funny one. And Cooper always writes on all of Peyton and Eli's stuff, and he's like a very big part of that family. But Arch is his son, and Arch is like, this like prodigy. So, that's pretty cool that Cooper gets to watch his son kind of go on to do all this cool stuff that he wanted to do. I mean, if you can't do it yourself, you would hope the same.
Definitely.
But like their dad played for the Saints.
Sure. Yeah.
So like that's the third generation
dynasty,
of Mannings that's going to be.
It's funny thinking about sports as a parent, because my daughter just started karate, and like it breeds confidence. It also is like the start of anxiety. You're in front of people, you have to perform, you have to show up, you have to like deliver. Like think about like the stress of the Manning son, like the pressure of that. Have you guys? This is a sports couple.
Oh yeah. Oh, we're gonna push everything on him.
Your son loves golf. I think I saw on someone's bio.
He does love golf. He did love golf very much. He used to play it, and then we dug up the backyard because we put in a pool. We're very bougie.
Wow, humble
we're
brag.
Doing very well. No, we just we spent one summer in the valley, and we were like, we have to put in a pool. Like we'll rather lose the house than not have a pool. So we put in a pool, and when we dug up the backyard, we couldn't be back there for 3 months. And it was when he was like right between the end of his ones and the beginning of his twos. And he started walking at 16 months. He walked very late, and it was to pick up a golf club.
Damn.
And he walked and picked it up, and he was playing, like he never missed. Ever.
What?
And then after we put in the pool, we put in this new grass and stuff, and he refuses to pick up a golf club. He's like, he acts like he doesn't know what it is or how it works.
Even though he was like a prodigy.
A prodigy at like I would line them up all down the grass, and he would just walk and boom, 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 just like air, like hit it, like long drives.
I think he's going to be good. I think you guys are going to force him to be a professional athlete, I sense.
Well, we watch a lot of baseball. Obviously, I watch every Braves game, or I listen to it on the radio. And we watch we have 2 TVs in the living room, so it's like he knows that like he doesn't have to play, but it's going to be on.
Yeah, he's going to be in a sports family.
You can be a fan. He already loves it though. Like we took him to a hockey game, and he is obsessed with hockey now.
Nice.
Like, so he's just kind of obsessed with whatever's on.
Yeah.
Which is fine. We just want him to be active, and I want him to be involved in sports because I need something to take away.
Right.
Like I need something to threaten him with, because he will be an only child, and he will be very spoiled. Hopefully he's not rotten. He will be spoiled, but he will not be rotten. That is my goal. And so I need I need something for coaches to threaten him with. Like, if your grades are not good, you're not going to be this.
Yeah.
But he is actually, I talk about how dumb he is in my act, but he's pretty smart.
I knew that you said to be authentic on stage. When I heard your bit about him being dumb, I was like, that's really funny, but I bet you he's smart. That's what I thought as a parent when I heard your bit.
If he was actually dumb, I probably wouldn't say that.
Yeah, you'd feel worse about it, right?
Yeah, but he's really, really good at stuff. He's not very good with letters yet, but he's not 3 yet. But he's very good with numbers. He's obsessed with a show called Blaze. I don't know if your daughter is into Blaze. How old is she?
She's 5, and then I have a 4-month-old now as well.
Oh,
so
wow.
I have a newborn.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah. That's why I'm here drinking.
Yeah. I know. That's why you don't want to go home. You're like, we could stay for 3 more hours.
This doesn't air. This is literally, I just hang out. I'm like, I want to get better at comedy and talk to the professionals.
Yeah.
And just drink.
No, Blaze is a monster truck that does math.
Oh, okay.
And it's very good.
My nephews know that, I think.
It's not easy math. Like, they're like, these are the quadrants. You know, it's like 4th grade math.
Oh,
yeah.
I hate math.
But he's very good at it
Great.
but he's also very good at memory. Like, his memory is really good. He gets that from his dad. He does not get that from me.
I'm the same. It's fun seeing them develop, right?
Yeah.
It's wild. Mm-hmm. From the South, and this might be like my own judgment, because I've only been in LA 2 years and I'm from Jersey. Like, there is something about having our kids in school. I know I'm getting you drunk before your parent-teacher today.
Uh-huh.
Is it funny, like, raising a child here? Like, I have a bit in my act about, like, our kid's spoiled now. My daughter's 5, and when she shows up at people's houses, the first thing she says is the pool heated? I'm like, dude, we had a cold hose. That's what you know. So, do you have fears about that a little as a parent? Because I do. Nepo baby, spoiled. Like, we need real, like.
Yes, like, I mean, I grew up. We did not have a lot, but my parents were both, middle class. Both of my parents worked. We had to go, we had to be in daycare and after school programs and all that kind of stuff. We never got cool clothes. We got $100 worth of stuff at Christmas. Like, that was it. And my mom used cut coupon. I would help her cut coupons for the grocery store all the time. We were very frugal. And so I think I do get worried about him being spoiled because I was not spoiled. And I was very resentful of people who were.
Yeah.
Because, like, my sister actually got spoiled because by the time she was... So my dad worked for Pepperidge Farm most of my life.
The bread company.
The cookie company. Yes, cookies and breads. Yes.
Sorry.
You said bread first, but I'm like, what? Goldfish, cookies.
Oh, goldfish. Oh, my gosh.
Yes,
awesome.
Pepperidge Farm goldfish, cookies, yes.
Wow.
So my dad was kind of like a sales manager and a regional sales manager, and he was gone all the time. Like, he was gone Sunday through Thursday. That he had a company car. Remember when people had company cars?
Hell yeah.
And so it was very difficult on my mom because obviously she worked too. And so I hardly ever saw my dad. And then when I was, I think, around 11 or 12, we started looking at all these, like, mansions in Atlanta on golf courses because we were going to move because his boss was retiring, and his boss offered my dad his job.
Nice.
But it meant my dad was going to be gone way more often. And so the next thing I knew, we were poor, and we were, like, eating butter on saltine crackers. But my dad was home every day. And basically what my dad did was he bought a distributorship. He bought his own truck. And these were, like, all the people that he managed. He managed all the people who stocked the shelves in the stores. So my dad bought his own route, basically. But he coached my softball team, and he was there every day. And, like, but I was so mad at him because I'm like, no, I want kids.
Yeah.
And, like, I was a little too old. Like, and also I think also I was the oldest, and I always was kind of the caretaker in my family with emotions. And so with my parent, but now I had 2 parents at home whose emotions I had to deal with. I was like, ugh, like,
get out of here.
Me out of here.
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah.
And so it was, 13 is always also a really tough age for that big of a change.
Sure.
And so I was very resentful of it. But, looking back, I'm so thankful that I'm so mad at myself for being a brat, but it is what it is. Like, you can't change the way you thought when you were 13. But you know, my parents never bought us nice things. Like we never got a trampoline, but they did put in a pool. Like they would take all of the extra money they had for stuff that we could do as a family. Like we could go on a vacation together once a year.
Oh,
and
great.
so, you know, I'm trying to, when I think about my son and like how I want to raise him, and I definitely spoil him, but I want to try to make sure that he is, you know, thankful and he understands the value of money and that we do things together as a family. Like you don't just get everything you want.
Right.
You have to earn it. So like right now we're working on a marbles system, which is kind of difficult to explain to a 3-year-old, but he is starting to get it. So it's like when he does something good, he gets a marble in a jar. And when he does something bad, a marble gets taken out. But when that jar is full, we go to the store and he can pick out a toy.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. So it's like incentive. Yeah.
I just bribed my daughter with cash. No, it's truly for like staying in bed. I just like Jersey bribe her. I said at the end of the week, if you stay in bed for 5 nights, I'm going to give you cash.
Okay.
Similar.
But that is incentive. Like
incentive,
I could probably get my kid to do that with if I gave him candy
Marbles
or
is
something.
smart.
But
I like
yes,
that.
like
they have to learn that.
Yes, they have to learn. You know, like we got money, we got allowances growing up, but they were like $1. You know, my sister and I were like, we're gonna save up for a trampoline. It'll only take us 5 years.
But to your point, it's the incentive. I don't know if I'm judging Hollywood and LA a little bit about this topic, but I do have that fear. Like, I think it comes down to the parents, though. It's like if you're raised a certain way, if your partner, you guys figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I even have, you know, very wealthy friends who are very nervous about the same thing. I mean, and then I have very poor friends that are nervous about them having rich friends, you know, so
it's
that
like
it's
never ending.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what I'm more worried about in Los Angeles is like I guess like accessibility to bad things, you know? But like, do I worry, you know, I would probably, if I took him back to Georgia, like I would probably be more worried about school shootings and
it's always something.
There's always something, you know, and you know my sister's a teacher there, and I'm so worried about her with that kind of stuff. So it's like, but you know, but also like they can't get Grubhub. So I'm like,
wow, Grubhub
there's
is nice.
Two things going against you guys: school shootings and no Grubhub.
It's so true, though. We have the perks. We do. It's funny. That's so true. I was just talking to my mom the other day, and she was like, you know, I'm just here worrying about you guys. Like, it doesn't. A flip switches when you become a parent, and I think it is worse for women. I will say for moms specifically, because these things were attached to you guys. Like my wife explains this sometimes, and I really can't ever empathize. Like I really can't.
Right.
But like that fear switches on, and like parents, we just have fears that just like never end. You can't really like. I'm trying to like describe LA or not. Either way, like it's a good point. It's gonna happen no matter what, no matter where you are.
There's risks everywhere. You can't live every day like it's your last. Like you have to live every day like it's your last, but you also can't.
Not in fear.
You know,
of that.
like you can't. You can be afraid of anything. You know, anything could happen at any moment. You just never know. You know, like. I mean, I worry about street racing out here, but like that would still happen in Georgia. Like we had street racing when I was growing up. Well, like we had a daycare center in my high school when I was growing up. Like,
wait, what did you watch? Too many Fast and the Furiouses? What happened? Why are you afraid of street racing?
Oh, because you know.
You mean like people just running lights here and stuff?
No, they like.
That's a very obscure.
We just had a guy at the Comedy Store. His son just died in a car accident. Like that was like maybe a year ago. But like, street
from
racing. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
But
they
like
know that.
like block off streets at 2 a.m. and just race.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's scary.
But when I'm driving home from the Comedy Store, even if it's 11 p.m., like people race past me on the freeway, and I'm freaked out. You know, like. Oh, like
it is a bad city for that. Like people drive unhinged here. They're wild.
Yes.
People are meanest in the whole country here on the road. And then if you park and walk into the same place, they avoid you like the plague. They'll literally be bastards on the street. And then they'll be like, oh, we're going to Gelson's together.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, luckily we're at least a year and a half away from when COVID was making people really crazy, when they finally got back out, where I'm like, people don't remember how to act.
Yeah, no, we forgot.
Like, they are going crazy on airplanes, at sports arenas, on the freeways. Like,
you're right. I'll never forget. I was
what
on
is happening?
Yeah, I was on a flight like shortly, like in the middle of the pandemic, and a flight attendant like shoved me in the aisle. It was like, get out of my way. And I was like, isn't it your job to accommodate me? Yes. And it was like, and I had to, and then me, people pleasing, empathy. I was trying to be empathy in my head. I was like, they've had a tough go. They've had a tough time, these airlines.
I'm sure they've
people
had
like,
a lot of...
They're trying to enforce masks. People are yelling at them about masks.
Yeah,
people hate them.
I know.
It's a weird world.
Yeah, so then you just go, I don't want to live in your brain or your head, so I'm just sorry about where you are. But it is different. I mean, I think the hard part for me out here is like the school system, and like where you're like the public school system out here is not that great. So you're just always going to have to be paying for some sort of schooling. Like right now, we're just like, we're gonna try to keep them in public school as long as we can, and maybe by middle school we can we're saving up to pay for middle school and high school for that.
It's a whole different beast here, I feel like.
You better get a scholarship.
Yeah. Get into sports.
Yeah,
Get into sports.
Like, fingers crossed.
Do you touch... I've seen you at the Comedy Store a bunch. Actually, I met you at the Comedy Store with the podcast world, and then I saw you on stage a few times. You were always great.
Have? Oh, that's...
Yeah, I was just been there like hanging out, and I'm like, I know her.
You can always say hello.
Oh, thanks. I will.
You have somebody to hang with.
I appreciate that. I want to be cool there, so thank you. My question is, do you touch politics that much? I feel like you don't a lot.
Not a lot.
That's
it's got to
great.
be very specific for me. Like it's got to really... something really has to bother me. And when I talk about it, I'm very careful not to take a side. Like...
which is the way it should be, I think.
Yeah, because
I'm the same way.
I don't want to be unreasonable. I totally understand why you need a gun. I don't understand why you need,
a machine gun.
a machine.
Yeah.
Well, they don't really sell machine guns. People make them, but I don't understand why you need an assault rifle.
Right.
I don't understand that. I understand needing a weapon. I totally understand that. I don't think you need something with heavy artillery. And as someone that's been, I've done 13 tours for the military overseas. I've shot every kind of weapon. I've shot all of everything you've dreamed of shooting. I've shot. It's fine.
Yeah.
But those guys don't fantasize about coming back to America and shooting it because they're like, no, we get to do this all the time.
Combat.
And so, I'm more interested in like kind of breaking down why people need the things that they need or why people are acting the way they're acting. And I try to present both sides, like I do have a bit in my special about guns. My brother-in-law has gun, my dad has gun. Like, it's not like I'm saying you shouldn't have them. I just don't. When you tell me your reason, I'm telling you why your reason doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But
But again, you're free. It's obviously it's a.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's a free country. It's an independent country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can do what you want, but you're not free from judgment.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me about the military tours, because that is, to me as a comedian, and I think of the history of like that beginning. I think it was like Bob Hope. I'm getting really nerdy about comedy, but Bob Hope, I think, really made that a thing.
Very
if
much
I'm
so.
Right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Oh yes, the USO tours back then. Yeah.
I feel like that's this is like, I'm just being cliche terms, badge of honor. I'm not saying you got a Purple Heart, but I'm saying like.
But it is a badge of honor.
Yeah, it must be amazing.
It's a huge honor to be able to be asked to do that. To be asked to do that once is pretty cool. To be asked to do it many times is even cooler. And I still get messages from people that remember me, or they'll send me a photo and stuff like that. And, I think those shows, I started in 2005. My first tour was in Iraq in 2005.
Damn.
Saddam Hussein was still alive at the time. Yeah, we had just captured him when I got there. He had just been captured when I got there. Whoa. Which was kind of crazy because when I went to Afghanistan in 2011, we had just killed Osama bin Laden. So I was like, they just clear out the country for me. I was like, that Coney fucker in Africa better watch out, because I was about to go to Africa. But so when I went there in 2005, it was still very early on. The tours are much different now. At the time, we were still doing convoys, which they don't even allow anymore. Convoys when it'll be a line of vehicles, and then there's 2 Humvees, and they're circling the convoy all the time. And I can specifically remember people drivers in Iraq going to the opposite side of the freeway to go around the convoy with fast approaching on it's just so insane.
That must be a wild experience.
Yeah.
Like I'm here in this foreign place, and I have to avoid any danger, and then I have to go make everybody laugh. Like what a cool and interesting way to do stand up.
It is very interesting. And people say, "Oh, those shows must be so great." And obviously the shows are usually pretty good. They're not always just so most of the places, they were very eager to hear anything. So the laughter was pretty good even when your material wasn't that great.
Yeah.
And I definitely wasn't that good of a comic when I was out there. I was doing just trying my best. I mean, it was 2005, so I'd only been doing comedy 2 years. So it was very early and pretty rusty, but I knew what I was out there for. I was not out there to be the headliner. I was out there to wear perfume and be funny enough and lift morale. And that's what I did. And I wasn't ashamed of that. I was very aware that I'm not the funniest person here, but that's not my goal. My goal is to make people laugh off the stage, on the stage.
That's awesome.
Your job is to sit down with people at the dining hall, at any kind of DFAC and just sit there and chat them up and just get them to think about something else. That's your job. Your job is, the shows are just that's what you're there, technically to do. But what you're there to do is go to the hospital and ask them what happened. And that's what Bob Hope would do. The more they tell the story, the easier it gets.
Sure.
So it's very difficult to go in there and you see these guys and they're all blown up and you just have to go what happened? Snake bite? And they laugh and then they tell you the story and then you ask them a couple questions and then you just change the subject, and that's your job.
Yeah. I love that you do that though. And I also love that, that's a reminder to me of what comedy really is all about. That is becoming, and I don't mean to always talk about this. I feel like we all talk about this as comedians, but I want our culture to remember that that's levity is what comedy is about. You're bringing levity to people in really tough scenarios, but that's why people go to comedy clubs too. It's to feel lighter about life. Life can be really hard. Let's laugh about it.
Yes.
And so I love that you do that because that's such a good population. But I also don't want the clubs to forget as we evolve that's what this is all about. That's why I love that your material is evergreen. And I don't know if it's because of where you're from. It might be a little bit kind of understanding both sides of we're such a divided politically in this world. Be funny and have fun together. I'm very philosophical and kind of heartfelt about it a little bit. Because it should be.
I think my goal is I do consider myself an independent because I'm just skeptical. I'm just always going to ask questions. And that's what makes me a comedian in the first place is that I was skeptical about everything. I was skeptical about church. I was skeptical about people judging me for not having an accent. I was skeptical about, learning biblical stories in high school and asking questions about it and saying why do we have to do the Pledge of Allegiance every day? Nobody else in school was talking about that. I was talking about that. And so I think your job as a human being in society is to question things. And however that makes you vote is fine. But I am not automatically on your side because you are a Democrat or Republican.
Right.
I'm going to ask you questions. And if you are afraid of answering those, then you are the problem. And if I question something that you're doing, that's not me being critical. That's me asking a question. That's it. Yeah. And if you can't answer that question and you're upset, that should tell you all you need to know about yourself. Right. Because you're afraid of the answer. You're afraid of looking stupid. Yeah. And I'm not trying to make you look stupid. I'm just asking. It's just curiosity. I'm just curious.
Yeah. And as a comedian, it's your job
to also... I'm not judging you. Yeah, I'm not judging you, but I'm just saying why do you need an assault rifle? Why do you need a weapon that the police don't own? Right. Why do you need that? And if you give me a good reason, I'm going to be great, good to know. Yeah, thank you very much.
Interesting to hear your side of
Wonderful.
That. Yeah.
But so far, I have not been given a good reason.
Well, you could get a lot more cans
Yes, you definitely can.
If you have a
hey
hole,
man, I'm totally.
I'm kidding. I'm not pro assault rifles. I'm just saying. I'm saying that's the one reason I can think of, like target practice. Oh, we shot 50 cans.
I've shot grenade launchers. They're not as accurate as you would like. And assault rifles are definitely not as accurate. I mean, I think assault rifles are just like a way of saying, like, I don't know how to aim at things.
Right. It's just, you got to.
Yeah, I don't have good aim or skills. Like a bow and arrow to me is the sexiest weapon in the world. That is a very difficult weapon to shoot. A sniper rifle, very fascinating to me. Like that, you have to adjust for wind speed. You have to adjust for altitude. Like that's super hot.
You're making me think of that guy in Saving Private Ryan, the sniper in Saving Private Ryan is like the man. He does a prayer, remember, before each guy. It's legit.
Yeah, sure.
Legit.
But that's a real skill when it comes to weapons.
Yeah.
But to me, an assault rifle is no skill. That's just saying, like, when I go to Vegas, I bet on every number when I play roulette. I'm not interested in winning. I just want to hit something.
It's an unfair weapon, honestly.
It's just to me, it feels like an unfair advantage. It doesn't also feel like a skill like hunting is supposed to be about, a real fight, a battle, and it doesn't feel like a battle.
Sure.
It feels one-sided.
I do want to know, like, are you on the road in America? Do you tour a lot? I know you're a mom, but are you also doing tours?
When I tour, I haven't. I've stopped touring right now because I'm writing a new hour.
Cool.
So until I have that, I can't really go out. When I do go out, I go out with Daniel Tosh.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I usually go out with him. So if Daniel's not on a like a bus tour, I'll be with him, mostly in Vegas. I think we're doing Palm Springs. So like I normally go out with him.
Cool.
Our sons are the same age.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, they're not the same age. They're a year apart. They have the same birthday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you took the time to hang here and get drunk before your parent-teacher conference. I hope you go tonight.
If you know anything about me, it's that.
Yeah, it's just regular prep anyway. You would have done this anyway from the comfort of your home because we know you don't want to be here. I will not forget.
I left my house for you, which is the bigger thing.
That's huge.
Getting me out of the house is a pretty big
That's
feat
huge.
anymore.
I don't know how we did it, but I'm really glad you're here. And I'm glad. I want to make sure everyone checks out your new special on YouTube right now. Yeah. Make sure if you're ever by the Comedy Store to go see Sarah. You're always there, I feel like, performing.
Always there.
Catch her on the road. Thank you for hanging with us. This has been great. Can I make you another drink?
No, just one for the car.
I'll give you a shot for the car before you get over there. Guys, thanks for watching again. The Pop-Up with Paul and Friends. I had such a good time this time. We'll see you next time. I think I'm a little buzzed. I'm going to keep drinking. Bye.